Hello guys, NautoAce here, and finally, I'll be talking about my thoughts on SNK, the whole history up to now. Excuse me. Yeah, so I'm still in the middle of the King of Fighter retrospective, but I think finally now it's a good time also to talk about SNK, where King of Fighter came from. So, first of all, for people who are new to video game, what is this SNK? I mean, by now, people should actually know. OG gamers know what SNK is, but for somebody who's really new, they're basically a Japanese company, but they're known for doing powerful 2D graphics. And they used to be like Nintendo or Sega. They used to have their own system called the Neo Geo. It was the most powerful, let's just say, a powerful 2D system. Let's just say it's the most powerful SNES. So that's what SNK is. And if you remember what it stands for is Shin Niho Ikokun or something. The Wikipedia probably will tell you more. I got this from a G4 show called Icon, but I think it's Shin Nico Ikokun. Well, basically, it translates to new product, new something product, but that's basically what SNK is. Because they were trying to show some new product, new IP that's basically that trying to compete with the likes of Mario and Sonic. Mario from Nintendo, Sega, Sonic. So when the first I heard about Neo Geo, when I was in the 5th grade, I was 10 years old, and it debuted in America in 1990. So there was this brand new type of machine called the Neo Geo Arcade, which is basically 5 games in one machine. You choose one. And they had some good games, but mostly, like I said, it's the days of the SNES, NES. So they don't really do like a lot of big games as of what we know right now. First person shooter, open world, adventure, RPG. They mostly does classic 2D arcade, fighting game, shumps, and sometimes sports games. But I don't know. I have to think about it for a while. Yeah, if you want to know some of the SNK, check my main channel. Just put in SNK. And I already did some showcase of a lot of SNK games. So they did have a lot of variety what they did, and each one of them, I believe it or not, to some extent, are fun. So that is what SNK is. And in the beginning, basically, they were trying to basically how it all started is not only they're doing an arcade version, which they call it the MVS, multi-video system, and that's what the arcade version. But also at the same time, they actually have a home console version called the Neo Geo AES. Unfortunately, I don't know what it stands for, the AES. But again, it's basically, like I said, it's a powerful Super Nintendo. So again, the games, you can see like the cartridge is so big. It's basically arcade on your home console. And in 1990, that's sort of a big thing. Now it's like, yeah. Like I said, now it's like, oh, they're Xbox Live, they're classic, they're retro. But in 1990, they were a big thing. So that's basically a lot of the Neo Geo games. So for a while, they were dominating. They were being like, I used to remember in junior up to basically, well, until my senior year, Neo Geo was dominating arcade to some extent. But they're also Capcom, they're competitors, other classic. That's basically Neo Geo. A lot of their basically MVS and AES, basically, you go to arcade, because that's what they make a lot of money from, is the arcade scene. And they also did some Neo Geo CD version, basically to try to compete with Sony, with Sega, but unfortunately the CD version, they weren't really as powerful as the PlayStation or the Sega Saturn, because the load time is really long and sometimes it tends to crash. So from what I heard, it didn't really sell much. Neo Geo, SNK also did Neo Geo Pocket for a while, trying to compete against the Game Boy. Unfortunately, that didn't really sell well. They did sell for a while in America, but until in 2000, they had to recall all the Neo Geo Pocket, and they stopped supporting it. Yeah, so basically, you say, wait a minute. So they used to be powerful in the 1990s to when? They were powerful to 1990 all the way, sad to say, 2000. Why? Because by the time 1998 starts, one thing that finally became fruition that it wasn't yet in the past, the internet. Yes, internet does exist like in 1996, 95, but they were still in the infant stage. By 1999, the internet now finally became, let's just say, a norm. People have easy access with it. Yeah, maybe dial up at a time, but again, people can have an access to the internet. And what was the biggest thing that also introduced? If you go to the internet, ROMs and emulation. Some game, well, let's just call them engineers. Finally got like an idea how to play classic game on your computer. So one of them, well, but there was NES, Super NES, as well as N64, GBA, Sega, Genesis, Saturn, if it's a possibility, PlayStation, you name it. To some extent, chances are you could probably play on a computer emulator. Well, but also comes with, unfortunately, SNK themselves, Neo Geo games. Like I said, their games are fun. So I mean, playing arcade is really fun. Sometimes you wish you have a console version, but then they had like they did Super Nintendo Genesis version of those games. They weren't really as good as the actual arcade version, the Neo Geo version. But you know, hey, take whatever you have, because the problem also with the Neo Geo itself, I forgot, was it was expensive. It was like really, really expensive, like $600, $700. The games were like $300 a pop. It's mostly a collectors. Same goes with the Neo Geo CD. Like I said, it didn't really work. At one point, they also went to 3D, but it was ahead of its time, and it didn't really work. So you kind of notice what's happening with SNK was that when the business changed, they couldn't keep up. And one of the biggest problems also was the reason why their old 2D classic games are now also selling, because, well, emulation. By 2000, SNK, they weren't making any money. They were recalling a lot of their system, and they couldn't even make money on the arcades because people for a while were just playing SNK games on the computer. I mean, you know, finally you don't have to go to the arcade, you don't have to stand in line, you don't have to waste a quarter. But, you know, it's kind of messed up that, you know, trying to support the company. And I was one of the supporters also. So by 2000, the owner, the guy who created SNK, basically left the company, sold off a bit of the asset. And remember, in my King of Fighters retrospective, 2001 and 2002, even so that it was published by SNK, it was co-published by SNK. It was also co-published by Elliott, and Soft was the developer until 2003. Because SNK, basically, the original SNK, the group people left. They created their own company called Playmore. So for a while, yeah, SNK, believe it or not, did actually go bankrupt. SNK, the original SNK, did go bankrupt in 2001. But by 2003, Playmore, I guess, had enough money, and the guy who basically used to own SNK bought back the company and trying to rejuvenate. And basically, because a lot of the people who used to work for SNK, especially also SNK USA, left, they had to basically regroup some of the people. So in the era of between 1990 to 2000, believe it or not, SNK were great. Well, 1990 to 1999 was great because of the arcade scene, but by 1999 to 2001, it was the downfall of SNK. They couldn't really they couldn't recuperate with their losses, and push continues. Yep, well, were basically selling the assets for a while. But then when Playmore bought back SNK, they got most of their asset back, especially the Fatal Fury, Art of Fighting, the King of Fighters. That's in 2003 once again was developed by SNK Playmore. So when I remember I heard, oh, finally SNK is back again, I was happy because they were trying to bring back. They even had SNK Playmore USA. But this is when it basically, believe it or not, even got worse, and I got pissed off. During the PS2 era, and yes, that's the keyword, the PS2 era, the PlayStation 2 was dominating the console market. The GameCube couldn't really compete. The Dreamcast couldn't compete. Not even the Xbox, the original, not Xbox One, but the original, couldn't really compete with PlayStation 2. So that's what we call it, the PS2 era, but at the same time, it was the dark days for SNK fans, because the majority probably are SNK fans are PS2 owners, like myself. So one is they hired a new, well, not really new guy. He used to be a market for SNK. Then when he lost the job at SNK, he went work for Nintendo for a while as a market. And then somehow this one guy used to be the president of SNK USA said, I don't want to do the job anymore, but I can recommend someone. And apparently this someone was Ben Herman. The guy basically was market for SNK, worked for Nintendo for a while. Now he's the president of SNK. For the time being, he was. I think by 2011 he quit. I'll explain it later what happened. So for a while there was SNK USA, and since Ben Herman was in charge, one of the requests he did was he said, "Oh, we need to move back to my hometown, New Jersey." So for a while, SNK USA was in New Jersey. So, and they were actually in charge of localizing game. So for a while, I remember E3 2004. SNK was there in E3. They said, "Hey, guess what? We're gonna announce a lot of this game." Metal Slug 3, I think that was the time with the current game. Metal Slug 3. SNK versus Capcom Chaos. Remember I mentioned that game before in my spin-off with the Versus series. Let's see what else. There were Samurai Showdown 5, King of Fighter Rebound, Neo Geo. Oh, not Neo Geo. Oh, King of Fighter Neo Wave, excuse me. So, those games were originally going to plan to the PS2, and I'm like, oh great, now I'll buy this game, I want to support SNK. Then came apparently there was some rumor flying around, and for a while Sony actually did. People were saying that Sony had this role during the PS2 era, heck, in the 32-bit era, was called the anti-duty policy rule. So what is that? Basically is that a company can't sell a game, if the game's 2D, you can't sell it at a retail price of $50, of up to $50. Mostly you have to sell it $30 or lower. Since the OG games are 2D most of the time, they were told by Sony that you have to lower the price. And at the time, SNK kind of refused, because there wasn't even a point that Ben Herman did ask the Japanese, his bosses, the Japanese, said, hey, they wanted to lower the price for the PS2. What do we do? And the report was that most of the Japanese upper management said they refused, and basically said, well, if they don't want it, they're trying to pull what's his name, a Yamauchi with the NES, like, oh, if you don't want to build a game for our system, they're lost. That arrogant style. SNK for a while did that. They said, well, fine, and if someone doesn't want to cooperate with us, then they're lost. We're going to go to their competitors. And this is a time when I'm like, oh my gosh, SNK, I'm feeling that SNK is going to be doomed, because all the games is going to be on the Xbox original. And they were. It was like, basically, and then instead of people being happy, oh, finally, SNK is back. No, because in America, if you want to play a lot of this SNK game, you got to go play it on an Xbox. I'm not going to refuse to buy Xbox to play 2D classic SNK game. I mean, for crying out loud, SNK versus Capcom Chaos was $50 at launch. Thank goodness by 2 months the game went down to $20 really fast, because that was really stupid Because think about this: if Capcom versus SNK Mark of the Millennium 2001, that was developed by Capcom, was selling for $40, and that's the superior of the two, what makes you think people are going to buy the other one for $50? Collection? Maybe. That was the dumb part for SNK, but again, because they're trying to make money back, they did not want to basically categorize all their games to be like classic games, because again, it is kind of current, it's just 2D. This is before, remember, indie game before small games. So there was no small game in the PS2 era. Whatever it is, that is the game. So for a while, they were refusing. Metal Slug 3, they refused. SNK versus Capcom, they refused. King of Fighters Reboot, they refused. Samurai Shodown 5 itself, they refused. Trying to sell it for the Xbox for $30. And from what I heard, that game didn't even sell. Because again, people didn't want to buy it because it's on the Xbox. And then why did I keep saying Neo Wave? King of Fighters Neo Wave when I talked about, it's on my Crimson V-Blog. Yep. Was going to be another one that was an extra exclusive. So a lot of this games like, oh my gosh, like what the heck, dude? And this was in 2005. And when Reba, they were planning to put in the PS2 and was denied because they wanted to sell it again for a high price, Ben Herman basically made an announcement to the SNK fan, and this is no joke, they said, unfortunately, King of Fighters Reboot will only be an Xbox exclusive, and unfortunately, due to circumstances with Sony, we will release all our SNK games on the PS2 in 2007. Why? Because by 2007, the PS3 is already be out. So again, sounded like a dick move. Excuse the language, but they were in a tight situation. They didn't wanna sell it in like law because they're new game, they're not classic. But they took 2D. But my thoughts about it was really unfortunate. Like I even told some of these people, said, hey, if you sell it, if you cut your losses and just follow Sony selling the PS4, you probably sell more. You're probably going to make a bit more money than selling in the Xbox, because they didn't really make a lot of money selling in the Xbox from what I heard. But there are some people that said, no, it won't, they're not going to make any money. And as of right now, we're never going to know. It's subjective, but in my opinion, they should just follow Sony and sell it a bit lower in the value price, like $30 or less. They're probably going to sell more in the PS2. Because basically, like I said, Metal Slug for $40. Initially for $40, not a lot of people bought it. SNK versus Capcom, not a lot of people bought it. Like $50 for this game, people were already complaining. Wow, $50 is too steep. And the defense says, oh, it's a new game. That didn't work. So Samurai Shodown was $30, but unfortunately, by the time it was already $30, a lot of people didn't want to buy it because they didn't want to support SNK until being the PS2. And then Reboot was originally going to be $50 for the Xbox, and then they cut it down to $30 because there were some problems. And then in the end of the development or localization development, sadly to say, the game got canceled in America. So there was a workable demo, but the official game itself, they had to cancel it. They said there was too many problems with the online component because they were trying to put it online. That didn't work, and it was so bad that King of Fighters Neo Wave was going to be $40 for the Xbox. It became $20, and I got that for use for $8, and it's compatible with the 360 90% of the time, but it wasn't that bad. But because of that, and the sad part was, like I said, when they're trying to release Reboot, King of Fighters 9 for Reboot at 2005, that's when they said, we're going to wait for 2007. People were just disappointed. I was disappointed. People lost respect. They couldn't even support SNK all the time. But then the question said, well, that's kind of sad, but did they ever make games for the PS2? Oh, yes, they did. And some of them were, like, talk about the spin-off, the Maximum Impact 1 and 2. They basically, that was for the PlayStation. Well, also there was an Xbox version, but it was also in the PlayStation 2. And then what they did was for King of Fighters 2000 and 2001, or then 2002 and 2003. For $40, they call it a dual bundle, just to sell it more than $30. What they did is they made the game each for $20, by making $40, so you get two games, like 2000 and 2001 for $40, and then 2001 or 2002, 2003 was also another bundle, and another one that I bought for a bundle was Metal Slug 4 and 5 for a while. Like I said, I'm an SNK fan, so I bought that one. There you go. And then later on, they're finally fixing their way. I think by 2007, they were starting to release games for the PS2. One of them was Metal Slug Anthology. It was a Wii launch, and I wouldn't really recommend getting that one because it doesn't support classic controller. Because according to the developer, they didn't even know that they even exist. Ben Herman basically said they didn't give them the schematic for the classic controller because they were trying to push the feature for the Wii, the gimmick. So kind of understand what happened there. But yeah, they released it for the PS2 for $40 because the reason is not only you get 5 games, but you also get the 6th one, and that's recent. I think in 2006. So that's Metal Slug 6. So there you go. But then later on, other games, they finally released the Neo Geo collection. And basically that's like SNK's old classic collection. They had like this multiple volume. If I remember on this video, I'll put a link on the description box on my pre-showcase of the Neo Geo collection, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Basically, like I said, mostly are just easy common ones such as the Fatal Fury collection, Real Bout collection, Mark of the Wolf, Last Blade, Metal Slug to some extent, King of Fighter, the Orochi Saga, the Nest Cartel Saga, Samurai Showdown. Yeah, I mean, there were more in Japan than in America, but they did release some of them in America, such as, yeah, I remember for $15. And this is another best one. After Metal Slug Anthology, the rest of their SNK game for the PS2 was released for $15. Yeah, and the reason is they removed the online component, and I guess, as from what I heard, there was even rumor that SNK felt bad to their fans, saying that, yeah, I guess we done goofed. So most of the game were $15. Some of them, such as like I said, the Neo Geo collection. I mean, it's a good movie in my opinion. I got it more on sale, like mostly I got it for $10, but whatever. Like the Fatal Fury collection, Real Bout collection was $15. Art of Fighting. I'm trying to remember something. Art of Fighting was one of them. Yeah, some of them were 15, but some of them were not. Yeah. Oh, World Zero was $15. I think that's it. They didn't bring Last Blade because they thought it wasn't that popular. Mark of the Wolf because of only one game kind of doesn't make sense, so they didn't release that. But there was some other collection that they did bring in America that basically was more than $15, such as the King Fighter, Orochi Saga. That was $20, but the reason is they also included 98 and 94. The Japanese version was just 95, 96, and 97. So that was $20. And once for $30 was Neo Geo. The Samurai Anthology was $30. And again, the reason for that one is Samurai Shodown 6 was released. And I think was current because that was also originally was going to plan also to be released in America. They didn't even release that in America, period. But they were considering at one point, but they just said nah. Because the poor sale of Samurai Shodown 5. What do you think? Why? I'm thinking what else? Another anthology that they released. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, I mean the last one for them was Neo Geo, excuse me. Samurai Shodown Anthology, which is game with 1 to 6. That includes Samurai Shodown 5 Special. I don't know why. So, yeah, for a while, that's basically, they were releasing it. It was published by SNK Playmore. Until at one point where SNK had to really structure the market, the business. And I think in 2011, there was some rumor that they want SNK to go back to California, Maria Del Rey. So basically, yeah, and actually the rumor became true that yeah, they made the move back, and Ben Herman, who was still the president, basically quit, saying I'm not going to relocate to America. Sorry, find yourself a new president, and yeah. And before I even continue, my thoughts about Ben Herman. Yeah, I don't like the guy. I did talk to him once. The guy wasn't really rude, but he was just like, hey, basically, I asked him a question if he can do this, like this special bundle that said King Fighter or SNK versus Chaos and Metal Slug 3 as a bundle. They said we tried that, didn't work. And he just told me, please, let's not talk about this and just drop it. I'm like, wow, whatever, man. So to some extent, really, I don't respect the guy. I don't like the guy. And I mean, it's sad that he had to probably leave his job. Maybe he liked to work at SNK, but I'm happy because he wasn't really doing a good job as president of SNK. I don't know who is I don't know who's the recent president of SNK America. I know in Japan, as of right now, I heard is a guy that used to work for Namco Bandai in America as a market. So the guy understands more about the American market. That's all I know, but we'll talk about it later. So from there, yeah, SNK did some minor changes. So when it finally came to the HD era, the PS3 and the Xbox, for a while was because the PS3 basically wasn't out yet, so SNK needed to make some money. They decided to provide some SNK games for the Xbox. Some of them was Metal Slug 3, Metal Slug Double X, Mark of the Wolf, Fatal Fury Special, King of Fighter 98 Ultimate, King of Fighter 2002 Unlimited, and Neo Geo Battle Coliseum. Oh, speaking of during the PS2 era, another one also was $15 was awesome was King of Fighter 11 and Neo Geo Battle Coliseum, except sadly they got rid of the online component because again PS2 in America didn't really support online that much because it was I guess new. Xbox is the one that revolutionized online. So there you go. So now we come to the HD era. Yeah, they were doing downloadable games for Microsoft for a while because they were like the leading market. And then when the PS3 finally get their footing, I heard SNK finally made a partnership with Sony. They created the Neo Geo Station, which is all the classic Neo Geo games. You can play them through its, Neo Geo style with online, but no achievement. I don't understand why, but that's what they call it. It had an app, sort of an app called the Neo Geo Station, where you play all your Neo Geo game on that app. So, like I said, I heard it was good. A lot of people basically support it. I didn't support it because it didn't have any trophy support, sadly. So there you go. So then, of course, they also released King of Fighter 11, or not 11, King of Fighter 12 and 13 for both 360 and PS3. 12 didn't really do much because of the content and they were selling for $60. And for one thing also that SNK no longer was a published game, they had to hire a third-party publisher for King of Fighter 12. I think it was Imagination. Or, no, not Imagination. Ignition, there you go. I have no idea if they're still up or not. I have to check that out. But yeah, the King of Fighter 12, that kind of failed. I mean, it was written, man. Like, really? $60 for less content? I mean, heck. $50 for King of Fighter 13 was much better for $50. Plus, you get a CD, like 4 CD to listen to classic music. Yay! So yeah, there you go. But they're coming back. Not so much. What else? Yeah, I mean, now. So what's happening now with SNK? Well, besides King of Fighter 14, which I'm surprised because I thought a lot of people thought that. Okay, SNK may be down because they're not doing any more console gaming. Yeah, because after King of Fighter 13, believe it or not, what happened was they did stop doing console development because one was they don't have a lot of money, so they end up doing like Pachinko, mobile game, downloadable games. So they couldn't even do anything like new games. So like I said, just mobile games, downloadable games, and Pachinko for a while. So people thought like, oh, are we going to see a new King of Fighter, like 14? Then Tokyo Game Show 2015 came, and King of Fighter 14. So yes, it is a shocker that there is once again they're back in the console business. But the story really is what happened was for a while was SNK really didn't have a lot of money to develop games until when a Chinese game developer company said, "We'll buy you. Let us use your IP. We'll make a game." Thus, King of Fighter 14, and for the PS4 exclusively. Sadly, because Xbox One in Japan, yeah, they don't sell much. So, yikes! Excuse me. So yeah, there you go. So that's my thoughts about SNK. I mean, they're great. I mean, it's kind of sad for a while that they were just doing mobile game, but I can understand like Capcom situation. Didn't really have a lot of money in the bank until they were bought by a Chinese electronic company, development game company. I have no idea. And the first game was King of Fighter 14. And there's no even news that they're considering doing two things. Well, 2017, apparently there's already been official they're going to do a new Samurai Showdown game. And another one is rumor has it that they might do a sequel to Mark of the Wolf. Not the Fatal Fury, Mark of the Wolf, I think. Fatal Fury, Mark of the Wolf. I think it's the Mark of the Wolf one, the one with Rock Howard. They're considering doing a sequel if there's enough fans demand, so that's awesome. Plus, some of the SNK games, they're on Steam. Maybe I mentioned about it like in another V-Blog, I can't remember when. 2002 Unlimited. Yeah, like I said, SNK games on Steam. 98 Unlimited Match. 2002 Unlimited Match, the other one is Ultimate Match. Ugh. And then King Fighter 13 Steam Edition. And of course, the Metal Slug games. 1, X, 3. All three of them. So that's a good thing that they actually, and the reason also they made money because they actually put SNK games on Steam. They probably should do that more. More SNK games on Steam with Steam achievement. People will buy them. So I'm happy enjoying them. So and of course, like I said, King of Fighter 14 is coming, and of course, Metal Slug 3 also was on PS3, Vita, and PS4 as a download. And coming soon, new Last Blade 2, thanks to Geo Corsi. So if you want a lot of SNK games to come to the PlayStation, hashtag building the list, tell Geo Corsi to request for it, and then he'll do whatever it takes. He'll figure it out. So, yeah, I mean, right now, so what do you think about SNK right now? Awesome, they're going back into gaming. Yeah, they basically leaving the Pachinko behind. They might still do some mobile gaming. I heard they said to a minimum, but they're done with the Pachinko, and they're gonna support. They're also gonna support Steam and of course King Fighter 14. Well, that's my thoughts about SNK from the past up to now. Thanks for listening.